Good morning, dear traders. My name is Alfred Wright, and today we're doing a market review, outlook on the week, May 21st to May 25th. Like usually, let's wait for everybody to join, and we will begin shortly. While we're waiting for everybody to join, I'm just going to open up the economic calendar, investing.com, and I suggest all of you to do the same to see what we're dealing with this week. All right. Okay. I'm seeing everybody's joining now, so I think we can begin. So once again, I'm a trader here at Finmax. My name is Alfred Wright, and this is a market review for Monday till Friday, May 21st till May 25th, and we will be discussing what type of movements will be happening in the market and potential positions and trades to open this week. So today being Monday 21st, we have actually holidays in a lot of different countries. It's Wood Monday or Victoria Day. But nevertheless, we already started off this week with a couple of news related to the Japanese yen. We had the exports and trades balance. The exports were negative and the trade balance was positive. Now, this day we're not actually looking at any other news that are going to cause volatility on the market. We have just a couple of OMC members speaking and an OPEC meeting. But other than that, that's on the evening, so we're not expecting there to be too much volatility on the market. Now looking into Tuesday, we actually have the Bank of England Governor Carney speaking close to the morning, so we're expecting a good volatility for the British pound, and there's also other members talking afterwards, and obviously the inflation report hearing. So until noontime, we are looking for the British pound to be volatile and most likely um, having good change in pips and potential good positions for CFD. Now, other than that, we have just Canadian dollar wholesale sales, so I wouldn't say there's much else on Tuesday to focus on. And moving to Wednesday, we have the German GDP, we have the German manufacturing PMI, and French as well. So the whole morning is packed with different Euro news, differential non-farm payrolls as well. Um, Going into Tuesday at that rate would be very interesting, and looking at different positions for the euro against the dollar and against the Japanese yen and the British pound. So it'll be a very interesting day to trade. As you can see, the forecasts are lower than previous results, so we'll have to see an actual results and already move from there. Now, uh, a bit after those news, and around an hour or so, we have the British pound CPI and a couple different other reports. The CPI is looking to stay neutral, and obviously from there we'll see how that goes. Now, to finish on Wednesday, as everybody already knows, it's a crude oil day. So we had the crude oil inventories, and in addition to that, for the US dollar, we have also the manufacturing PMI, the new home sales, and lastly, to end of the day, the FOMC meeting minutes. So we're looking for Wednesday to be very volatile throughout the whole day for all the different currency pairs. And obviously, we're already knowing where to go based on the results of the news and the reports. Now, Thursday, what we're also looking at is we saw there will be the German GDP. Uh, Now, we're also looking, as I can see, the German GDP on Thursday. And let me see retail sales for the British pound, so that'll be interesting. And obviously, to end off the euro for that day, we have the monetary policy meeting for the European Central Bank. So, obviously, looking to trade on the euro after actually the monetary policy meetings. The meeting is actually released, um, and already based on the actual result, yeah, we're opening positions like usually. And yeah, Thursday, 10 of the day as well, existing home sales for the US dollar, nothing too much. And lastly, by Friday, we're also looking at the GDP for the British pound. We have the core CPI for the Japanese yen, and again, to end of the day, to end of the week, we have the Federal Reserve Chair Powell speaking. That's it. That's it. That's pretty much it for the different reports and news that are happening this week. If anybody was following the news, we had the US and China trade war update, and it's actually going to be on hold for now. Both representatives from both parties have agreed on those terms in order to go negotiate more on different wider trade agreements. And for now, they're going to keep that trade war on hold. So, on that note, we saw the US dollar increasing heavily, as you can see right here on the index and on the dollar yen. Today, already having a really interesting growth. If we have a look quickly since the opening right over here, a good amount of 50 pips for the dollar yen. So, based on that, because the trade war is already on hold, we're looking for the dollar to continue with that momentum um, since it doesn't look just to stop there. Now, let's just take a quick look actually on the daily interval. Um, Looking at the US dollar index itself, a bit of technical analysis. We have the Fibonacci retracement right here. It hit the level of 78.6%, and this is from the highest point it was in November to the lowest point that it was in February. And based on that, it was expected to reverse around this area. However, based on the news that I just talked about, US and China trade war, we saw an increase in the dollar, obviously. So as we're looking on the stochastic curve side, still growing. It hasn't reached this limit right here. And on the ADX, the growth is still very strong. So we're looking for it to continue increasing. Now, how long increasing on the dollar index? It is not sure because that is a very high increase. There's still a lot of room to grow, and I would say it's better to judge on the US dollar Japanese yen. Why on the US dollar Japanese yen? If we actually, I would say I move this a bit down here, move this ribbon right here. It is close yet. The US dollar Japanese yen is very close to 78.6%. This is from the highest point since beginning 2018 to the lowest point in March. And if we're looking right here, it is just, I would say, just a couple of bips away from this level. And once it reaches level, I think it'll be known where the US dollar will actually head, which direction. And that's the thing where we can base the judgment off. Looking more on the actually, let's say, 4-hour chart. So it's growing very strong, and based on this move right here, I think it will continue growing for now. Looking at the 1 hour, we're most likely looking at a reversal for a shorter term. If you're looking also in 15 minutes, you can see right here. Uh, but based on the stochastic side becoming weaker right here, and the ADX making a reversal, what we're looking at is just a small correction, potentially continue increasing on a little, I would say, on a more hour base. And on 5 minutes, we can see that, as we can see right here, there you go, it will continue growing. Very narrow linear regression, narrow Bollinger Bands for the length of 20, 11, length of 60 is a bit wider, and you can see the price is just above both of them all the time. Um, Judging by that, I would say the US dollar Japanese yen will continue growing today, since again there are no news to actually cause a correction or cause a different type of trend movement. So based on what happened over the week and the different results we had with the different updates, well, yeah, the updates in general with the Chinese trade war with America, we're looking at continuing to grow and continuing for the currency pairs against the dollar to have this trend. That said, under Euro US dollar, obviously we're looking for it to decrease in its value. As we saw, the whole currency pair has basically collapsed, and it's at its lowest level since I would say November, and it's very close to this level right over here. Looking at the 4-hour chart, we are looking at the same results since the opening, just collapsing and continuing downwards. Looking at 1 hour, same thing, still decreasing in its value since the opening as well. A bit slow right here, and then a bit more, I would say, negative positive. But yeah, since 9 a.m., that candlestick was very strong. Look at 15 minutes. You can see, let's take a look quickly. Since 9 in the morning, so the past 1 hour decreased by 25, 26 pips. And yeah, I wouldn't say there's much stopping it right now. Looking at more closer time period, I think it would correct a bit more. That's more realistic since it is below the linear regression Bollinger Band at the lowest point stochastic RSI, and we see the same thing on ADX. I would say it has to increase right now. As you can see, it's already happening. Shorter time period, Euro US dollar should be increasing Over daily term, I think it will reach the 1.17 1, so around 10 more pips. That's very realistic for the price to change and then continuing decreasing, potentially just at 1.17 mark. Uh, we'll have to see where it further decreases or not. But that's again all based on the movement of the US dollar itself and how strong it will continue going. On that note, we're looking at British pound US dollar as well. Now, since, as we can see, where is it? Since January, it has been decreasing in its price fairly slowly. Had a couple of different strong movements there now and then, and big corrections as well. Looking at right now, the position it is at the highest point of stochastic RSI. However, at a very interesting and stable position, I would say. Oh, this is Australian dollar US dollar, my bad. Okay, I'll just look at Australian dollar US dollar. Um, at 0.75 for the past couple of weeks, I would say for the past almost 3 weeks. And Australian dollar US dollar, what we're looking at right now is, I would say for it to be a bit more stable around this level as well. It doesn't look like it will change rapidly. Um, it's not looking like it's affected by the growth of the US dollar as much. And there will be a lot more news related to Australian dollar, which will affect, I think, affect the price more. Looking a bit on a closer level, 15 minutes, we see it did decrease, and now it's correcting itself with a very long candlestick. And I would say reaching this level now and going back upwards, I think it has room to grow right now, based on also the linear regression and its direction. And yeah, that's, I would say, for the shorter term, for a couple hours, it has room to grow. And on the daily interval, it should stay on this level right here, perhaps growing a bit more and then decreasing in its price. That's more realistic. British pound, US dollar, I can delete this right over here since it continued falling after reaching the 1.34, 1.35 mark. It bounced a little bit around it, and Friday and today it already started decreasing more. So that said, we can see there's a reversal in stochastic RSI. We thought there would be a correction happening after what we saw in the results of Thursday. However, it changed because of the general growth of the US dollar. So, looking at the 4-hour chart, it's a very interesting level right now. The ADX showing it should be still increasing, potential until we have something like this right over here. But the, I would say, bullish trend is very low, and it has potential to increase at this point. Um, let's see. So let's clap in there. But now, on looking at 1 hour, it is below linear regression in Bollinger Band. So like it has a lot of potential to grow at this point. We just need to see the growth starting. And once the actual already correction begins, I think that would be a good point to enter at. You can see in 15 minutes, it just keeps decreasing, decreasing. So I would say just wait for the correction to begin, and once it begins, you can open a position to go high. I think we talked about US dollar, Japanese yen. Let's talk quickly on the US dollar, Swiss franc, just to cover the whole US dollar currencies. Um, let's see. Now, US dollar, Swiss franc, we saw a slight correction happening, and we saw that result in the stochastic RSI. However, now at the point where it is, and with the whole situation with the US dollar, I think that has room to grow now and break this level right here at the $1 mark. Um, You could see, yeah, it's fairly realistic. It's showing those type of, I would say, signals on the indicators, and you can see in the 4-hour chart definitely has a lot of room to grow. So looking on a longer term, I would take the US dollar Swiss franc to go high. Um, just based on the whole situation with the US dollar and the position of this current price right now. And lastly, for all the US dollar currency, we're looking at the US dollar Canadian dollar. The whole situation with it right now is also very interesting since it is between the two levels right here, 23.6 and 38.2. And based on stochastic RSI, it has room to grow right now. And the result today isn't so positive. Take a look at 4-hour. It opened and stayed at the same level. And we're looking right now on the 4-hour chart. Yes, stochastic RSI, it does show that it is very high at this point and should be decreasing. Same with ADX. However, if we look at 1 hour chart, we're looking at a growth. And I would say potentially, um, I doubt it'll do something like this. What happened last week, after high growth, it will decrease. So I would say it has potential to increasing to the 1.29 mark right over here, 29.19. This level right here, and already from there start the correction that it should have. Um, I would say that's pretty much it for these currency pairs. I want to look quickly on the Euro Japanese yen. Since there's a lot of different interesting positions and different news, I would say circling the whole yen itself. Why? Because yen kept decreasing since middle of March, closer to the end even. After being the highest, had the best growth for a currency pair in general for a currency, and having this huge correction almost back to the level where it started growing. Everybody's expecting a growth from the yen itself, obviously reflecting on the dollar yen to decrease, and all the other currency pairs as well. And as you can see, it doesn't fully reflect the same movement for the euro Japanese yen since it's more effective on itself. I can see it's more on how the euro acts. You can see it decreased very fast, I would say as well, in a month time, half a month even. Then had a small correction in May and now decreasing again. Seeing the same type of movement for euro Japanese yen. We're seeing the same type of movement for euro US dollar. So where would euro Japanese yen go now? It didn't decrease like the euro US dollar did on the recent movements. And looking at the 4 hour chart, um, 4 hour chart is showing that it will continue decreasing, but it is at an interesting level. Had a small correction right here, and the on the ADX the downtrend is very weak. So let's look at a closer interval. Closer interval, we're seeing a decrease in its price. So if we're looking at 1 hour, it should continue decreasing. We saw right here that we had recently a sell signal, and the ADX downtrend is increasing. The ADX high trend is decreasing. So same thing with stochastic RSI, we're seeing it's decreasing right here. So I wouldn't say there's much need to say, much else to say as well. Uh, you can take your Japanese yen to decrease for a couple hours. That looks realistic. I would say right now there'll be a small correction. Look on the 5 minute chart for a better position to open. You can see right here it's very low. Obviously it's going to correct a bit, and then I would say to already open a downwards position. That's more realistic for the Euro Japanese yen. Now for the British Japanese yen, let's take a quick look. For British Japanese yen, we saw something very similar. Let's take a look at the British pound index. We saw it decreasing since middle of April to May. Small correction and now decreasing as well. Very similar what we saw right here, slightly I would say. The British pound Japanese yen actually did a bit better, however, not right now. Um, what we're looking at, it is supposed to continue decreasing. However, we can see a slight positive candlestick. And if we look at a 4 hour chart, we saw it just based on the growth itself in the last seconds. And now it's decreasing slightly. But based on the stochastic RSI, it should be increasing. Same with the ADX for the 4 hour chart. But this is the British pound, and there isn't much on the British pound itself. There are different news, I would say. Uh, if we're looking at the British pound index itself, it is decreasing, and it looks like once that opens, it'll decrease even more. So the British pound Japanese yen, I think it has room to decrease. Looking at 1 hour, we can see that reflecting right over here. It could increase a bit more right here, but realistically, I'd say it has to be decreasing. I see small correction and then continue decreasing since the whole situation with the Japanese yen, with the British pound, in general, where the price levels are at for those currencies. Where they are at, we're looking at decrease. I would say wait for the correction right now that's happening, as you can see, and then already look for positions to go low. Now for Canadian dollar, Japanese yen, let's take a look at the daily interval quickly. On the daily interval, what we're looking is so yeah, increasing in its price. Basically, like the dollar yen is moving, but dollar yen has a bit better performance. For the Canadian dollar yen, it is almost at the highest price it's been since beginning of February. So looking at 4 hour chart, it is increasing. Looking at 1 hour chart, increasing as well. We're looking for a slight correction to happen, I think. You can see there was two signals right here to sell. It did decrease afterwards, and now it's growing again. If we're looking at 15 minutes for that, we can see it was right over here. Um, what we're looking at right now is you can see the correction is happening. It's not a big correction. It's just 5 pips. Uh, but it's reflecting the stochastic order size. So what I would say is where the price is at right now, we're waiting for the stochastic order size to make a reversal and then continue to go upwards. There's a reason why we had this such high movements since the opening, and I think it should continue with this strong trend. There is no reason for it to correct itself at this point. Now looking at let's look at Euro Swiss franc. Euro Swiss franc, what we're looking at is for it to continue its downward movement, again because of hold euro and it's decreasing. We saw it reach the $1.2 and fall down afterwards almost instantly. And I would say that's the whole motive behind the whole movement for the euro, and it's decreasing against all currency pairs. We see what was around 260 pips. That's pretty good. Let's look at a bit closer what it's at right now. As you can see, let me show again. The Fibonacci retracement is not showing stable, I would say, correction as we saw right here, and then it just continued breaking through all the levels. Potential, I would say, it has potential to decrease to this level right here to 61.8 percentage, based on the results it had previously in March, where it was at. On that note, if we look at 1 hour, it's still decreasing. It should correct itself a bit right now, as you can see, it's showing on the ADX, but that's not a guarantee that will now increase backwards. It did break through it and it's below it right now. So where else should it go other than downwards, continuing downwards? As you can see right here, there could be just a small correction, but then it will continue going downwards. If we look at 15 minutes, actually, you can see that right here. Yeah, a small correction is possible. 5 minutes, it's already correcting, you see, and then continue down. So I would take Euro Swiss franc to continue downwards for um, an hour, 2 hours. That's more realistic. Now, okay, British pound Swiss franc. The British pound Swiss franc, a very interesting position as well. In between two levels right over here. Right, well, hold on 1 second. All right, let's see. So the British pound Swiss franc, very similar to how all the currency pairs against Swiss franc are moving. We saw when it reached a very high level, it's now decreasing. Having that correction downwards, the stochastic side is very low for the daily interval, obviously, when we have such a movement happening. But based on this whole movement, we need to look at a correction that's going to happen soon enough. And looking at the 4-hour chart, that's very realistic happening. Very realistically should be happening by today, based on how the next candlestick, this candlestick, next one moves. We can see in the stochastic side shows that it should be increasing. But again, since the opening it decreased more. Looking at the 1 hour, it is very low, and I would say the potential for it to increase is around this area right here, around 1.34, between 1.343, 34.5, and from there, I think it can continue going downwards. You can see right here. I think, yeah, looking at 15 minutes, has potential to increase the 34, 1.342, 34.3. And then continue downwards like it has been doing since since its huge reversal, I would say. But all right, that's the direction I'm looking at for the British pound Swiss franc. And looking at say Euro Canadian dollar, it's in a very interesting position as well. As we can see right here, it hit the mark right over here, the 78.6% as well. And if we look at 1 hour, uh, is showing a buy signal right now since it has been decreasing since where is it 7 p.m. my local time. Let's see, it's very low in stochastic side looking at 15 minutes. I think it has potential to increase and cross this level right here. But other than that, I wouldn't say there's much for Euro Canadian dollar. I wouldn't say I have a concrete exact position or a time period to open at. I would want to see first the correction to begin, and then I'll follow that correction. And that's, I think, the best position possible for Euro Canadian dollar. I wouldn't want to go low for a couple of pips, thinking that there'll be a movement downwards, continue even a slight movement downwards. I'd rather follow the correction. Let's take a look. Euro British Pound. Now looking at Euro British Pound, it's also a very interesting level. Was decreasing since this level right over here, 0.883, and now we are looking at a correction since Friday. Looking at 4-hour chart, we can see it's more mixed. It's not very strong, and it's very high on the stochastic RSI already. Uh, More closely throughout the day, I would say we're looking at for it to decrease. That's why it's important to look at different time tools. They tell you different movements through different periods. If you're looking at 1 hour, it is decreasing. We're now up to reaching this level 3 times already. That's a very strong signal. And when it reached this level right here, 0.0872, it increased again. So I doubt it's going to hit this level fourth time and go back up, realistically. So what we're looking at is for it to uh, either reach this level right over here and then continue decreasing, or just continue going upwards. But I wouldn't say there's an exact answer for that. If you look at 5 minutes, there's potential for it to increase based on how the whole linear regression is moving. You can see very similar movements right here. So looking actually, yeah, at the shorter time period, I think the euro the British pound will continue going upwards. Um, you can see that on the ADX as well. Stochastic RSI, it's making a reversal, and just the general direction of the linear regression. It touched the linear regression lower band right here, and previously earlier today during the night at 4 a.m. And you can classify that as a trend line. So you can see that right over here. There you go. All right. Guess I pressed something wrong there, but okay. That's that for the Euro British Pound. And looking at the US oil, also very interesting. Reached top heights and slowed down a bit more in its movement. I wouldn't touch the US oil, the crude oil, until the actual crude oil inventories are released, because that's when there's actually the best movement happening. But all right. And the gold, XAU USD. Again, just how the US dollar will continue moving, that's where the gold will go. It broke this low right here where I thought will be a correction happening, but because it did break through it, looking at 4-hour chart, it will continue going downwards. The goal is just to continue to decrease and decrease, and since the United States and China placed the trade war on hold, their investors are now looking at gold as a secondary option. They're looking back at the US dollar. That's why it's growing, and that's why gold is falling. So, uh, based on the news that happened, and there's no other reports that are released on Monday, I would take gold to continue decreasing. And when there's actually a fundamental report that will show me that gold will be increasing, correcting, or there's something bad happening with the Iran deal again, more updates on that, or again, more updates on the whole China trade war deal, then I'll be only taking gold for correction. But other than that, I'll stick with gold to decrease in its price. And on that note, I'm not going to look into stocks because the earning reports are finished and there isn't much new happening in my opinion. I'm going to be looking a bit into Tesla, but I think I'll discuss that next webinar, the next market review, and also on the indices as well. And lastly, like always, looking at cryptocurrency, uh, it's looking to decrease the usual movement that we have for Bitcoin. So on that note, I think I'm going to be ending off this webinar. Uh, I discussed the movements that I'll be taking this week, today especially. And if you have any questions, I suggest you consult your trading expert, and they will help you out. Um, on that note, yeah, hope everybody will have a great trading week, and I'll see you guys next webinar.